divorce, the selfishness, sexual sin.
Anybody listening to this, you've looked at it before.
This is going to shock. It shocked me. How's that? Do you feel like your life is in a loop? Like people around you have it easier than you, and you work very hard at things only to find failure? Well, I'm here to tell you some of the responsibility falls on you, but some of it's not. What we're talking about today is generational trauma. And in biblical sense, we talk about the generational curse. Here's the good news. On the other side of it, if you work real hard, you can become a generational change agent. But it's going to be hard. We're untrained philosophical discussionists. My name's Jonny Hanson. Right there's my good buddy Andy Lamb. And life is hard, and it's going to throw hard things at you. And some of it is going to be your responsibility to fix. And other times you have to start identifying the things that are going on. So today's episode, we're going to talk about what is generational trauma, how does it show up in your life, and what can you do to become the generational change agent that you want to be? You know, we got a message from a guy this week on our social media. In a video, we were talking about how God has his own timing. And we conveyed that God's timing is rarely on our timing and how frustrating that is. And this guy wrote in the comments, I've been waiting 2.5 years. I'm done.
When he wrote that, I almost skipped right over it, because sometimes when people put stuff on comments on our social media, it feels like it's going to be more of a conversation than maybe I have the energy to put into it.
It feels confrontational.
It does.
Like, screw you and your idea.
But here's what you did that was really, really important. It was so simple. You just said, hey, I'm curious. What have you been waiting for? It was real simple. And it took him a while to respond to that, and he came back in and said, hey, I just want to apologize about the way I responded to you on that. I feel like God has promised me this woman. I've been waiting for 2.5 years for it, and she isn't coming through, and it's painful.
Yeah.
The wait is painful. And it really opened up his heart to being willing to dialogue to this scenario of what he thinks should be happening in his life.
Yes.
Because I think because we're just so like me focused, like I should get what I want all the time and it should happen on my timing. And if it doesn't happen on my timing, then I'm not going to be satisfied in anything with that.
Yep.
And you just saw these wheels unpacking in his mind about what really was going on behind the scenes. But because somebody stepped in and was willing to have a conversation and just ask questions, we weren't telling him what he should do. We weren't telling him how he should feel.
No.
We were just simply asking him questions.
Right.
And he really unpacked this beautiful thing of a hard thing, but a beautiful thing of the heart of a father. And then his understanding of, I'm willing to wait just a little bit longer.
And I love how he came in right away and he was like, hey, man, I'm sorry. I was super frustrated yesterday with the situation that I'm going to tell you about. And then he unpacked it. And then you jumped in because we have different handles. So you went in on yours and you said, hey, man, gosh, I've been there before. So you were instantly relatable. You didn't tell him how you should feel. You just said, I can totally relate. I've been through hard things like that before. Man, I'm going to pray for you.
Yeah.
And then I came back in and I said something to the effect of, I waited a long time to meet the woman that I married. And I know how frustrating that time can be. All we did was like give him our own little tiny piece of what's happened in our life that hopefully helped him contextualize. And then at the very end, he goes, this was super helpful, guys. Thank you so much for responding. You're right. I'm not going to give up on God. And he's put this message in my heart, and I'm just going to continue to try to be true to it until he moves me.
Yeah.
And like he came all the way around to that last piece, which is unless he moves my heart. And I love that because that is him saying, God's in control and I want this thing, but ultimately, if God doesn't want it for me, if I feel like he does, and if he changes or if something in it changes, he's going to push me away, and then I'll know it for what it is.
Yeah. Which, by the way, like, share, subscribe. Obviously, if you comment, we're going to comment back to you. We want to engage. We want to know what's going on in your life.
I love this. We get so much correspondence now.
Yeah.
If you comment, we will respond. Look at any of our threads throughout our social media. We're constantly responding because honestly, this is important. We truly think that your story is important. We truly want to encourage you to, if you don't know Jesus, to maybe try to figure out who this Jesus character is that means so much to these guys, to us guys. And then also, at the same time, you're still a human, and God has given us a heart to help our fellow brothers and sisters on this planet. We're supposed to love you, and love is a wacky thing. Love is a super confusing, mentally confounding thing that can be extremely frustrating at times.
Well, especially on social media, because very often what happens on social media, it's a guy writes in something like that, and the natural response of people is we want to be combative and tell them whatever we're going to share with them to make them belittle them, to make them think that their comment had no value whatsoever. But instead, we want to come in and build people up.
Yes.
Because that is the heart of our mission on here is we want to help people find Jesus. We want to move people towards Jesus. And so when you do comment things like that, we will openly share with you. You know, we're going to be doing some interviews, sharing our stories here in an upcoming episode. And, you know, one of the things I did talk to him about was my 10-year waiting period of my broken marriage.
Yes, you did.
You know, and so he, in his mind.
That's another thing. You showed that vulnerable side of yourself that said, hey, buddy, I'm not just going to kind of relate to you. I'm going to share something personal about myself that I'm not proud of this time period, but it happened. And here's where I'm at now. All glory to God. So like you being willing to be vulnerable about this stuff in your past that's kind of ugly.
Yeah.
Opens the door for him to see that you actually are a real human. You're not some bot, first off, talking social media, but secondarily, that you're a human who has been through some hard things. You're showing him your scars a bit and saying, yeah, I got one of those scars there too. It might not be the exact same scar as you, brother, but it is a scar and it's similar enough. Maybe it rhymes. And I'm relatable, man. Talk to me more.
Yeah, you waited 2.5, I waited 10. And I'm not telling you have to wait 10 years, and I pray to God you don't have to wait 10 years, but I know what it is to wait. And I know the pain of it, what it is to wait. And if you've ever had to wait before, you know the pain that comes with it. But the benefit of the waiting game on there is you get to figure out what you're worth, and you get to build up some of this. The Bible says it like this, when you suffer, it develops perseverance.
Yes.
Like we see that in the book of James.
Yes.
Right? And so if we know that the Christian life is going to be times of suffering, times of good, then I know when I'm in the times of suffering, I'm going through this so I can develop perseverance because I know God has been faithful and seen me through it. Maybe not in the timing that I want it to be.
Right.
Very rarely is it on the timing that I want it to be. Because if it was, then what would I need God for? Because everything would just line up the way that I want it to line up. But God's waiting game, it's not some like sick, sadistic thing that he does. It's an intentionality because it creates a reliance on him. Because he says in this life, you're going to have hard things that happen to you. But don't worry. You know, I've overcome the world. It's just probably not going to fall in the timeline you want it to be.
And we're here to say consistently throughout our message on UPD is, he has a better plan than all the little plans I put together that I think are the perfect thing for me. God's plan is so much better every single time.
Every time.
The second thing that I thought was super brilliant of him was turning it back and saying, unless God moves me. Because the truth of the matter is multiple times in my life, I thought I was on the right track. And I thought the thing I was doing was everything I wanted it to be. And the desire of my heart would finally fill the component missing within. And then God would change my heart on it. Or I would get the thing and it wasn't what I thought it was going to be.
Which happens so often, right?
And it was not fulfilling. And then on the other side of that, I'm twice as broken. I'm twice as needing. And then I'm twice as empty. Because I thought this would be the thing, and it was just another thing that didn't do what I wanted it to do, which is somehow like fill this void inside of me that truly existed. And nothing is going to do that short of Christ. That's the whole point. And he's seen that for what it was. It's such a beautiful thing. And we don't know a lot about his history. We don't know any of his history, in fact. I don't know, did his parents stay together? How did they get together? What's that relationship look like? And that's kind of what we're here to unpack today. When I say that there are some things that are your fault, I mean that. I mean, you might be contributing to your own slow progression in life. But on the other side of it, you might have had terrible examples. And that's the generational trauma. Dad and mom couldn't find a way to resolve their self-centeredness, so they separated. And now that's what you see marriage as, is a broken commitment to each other. That is generational trauma. And we're not positing it's like, woe is me. Oh, mom and dad got divorced. No. You have an opportunity to do something better now. But you still carry that baggage. And that is the lens with which you then move up into adulthood reflecting. And it's only when Christ comes in and puts on a new lens over you and goes, no, I actually have an ideal for you that I'd like to lift you up into. That's also the generational curse thing, is it can be handed down through the actions of your parents when you then take those actions and you start living them out on your own. You start mimicking mom and dad and their faultiness. That is you carrying the curse beyond. It's not some mystical formula voodoo thing that happened to you, a seance that somehow you got prodded with little needles in a voodoo doll. This is like you watched mom and dad make bad decisions, have bad outcomes, and you have somehow followed that same path. We're saying you have an opportunity now, once we reveal some of this stuff to you through the Bible, through a relationship with Christ, to actually make changes. And then you can, when you have kids, they'll see this good life that you've built out with God, and that breaks that generational thing that's been happening.
We see that a lot, very often with addiction, as we kind of talk through some of what these curses are going to be. We also want to clarify what the curse is too. But, again, look, you can start to look at the pattern of behavior that has happened for generation upon generation upon generation. And if you don't recognize it as a curse, again, not some voodoo thing, but as something that has happened, an inherited trait that you have based off what you have seen, what you have been taught. And if you can't open your eyes to see it for what it is, then when you start to have your own kids, you just begin to lay that same curse down on for generation to generation to generation. So when we say generational change agent, it is, how can I look at my past? How can I look at my familial past and the poor decisions they make, what I saw, how I've been living them out, and go, that's not what the Bible teaches. And so,
it's not who I want to be.
Nor is it who I want to be. And because I don't want to be that person, then I don't want to put that on I don't want my kids to feel the burden, the pain. Sadly enough, I did for a lot of years. And they got to see, my kids got to see the version that I saw.
Right.
But Jesus came in and supernaturally saved us. And so I got also at the same time was able to teach my kids the new version too.
Yes.
Now the prayer is, and that is part of it, is we have to be praying for our kids that they get to do something different than what the Lamb generation did for years and years and years and years.
So some of this is like, you might not even have the language for what's going on in your life. You've maybe never done a full account of what is happening in your life. It just might feel like chaos right now, and it might feel just crappy and like I'm not getting anywhere and I'm stuck. We're saying that if you start looking back over your past, going, what kind of decisions have I been making? And what kind of decisions did my family make? Because it does impact who you are. Both those things in combination have led you to the place you are. There's this great thing, 2 Corinthians 5:17. If any man is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old things have passed away. Behold, all things have become new. I speak about this one all the time. It means everything to me because God has a supernatural power that when you hand your life over to him, he supernaturally changes it into something else. And he wipes away the past. You get to be a brand new thing. And somehow it actually starts to happen. You start formulating new thoughts. The thought always is the first thing before the action. So now your actions start changing. You start seeing things more optimistically. There might be more of a benefit here. And then people start responding to you more positively. And all of a sudden you start building up some foundations that actually puts together a pretty doggone good structure called life.
And one change, one decision to make a change will bleed into these other areas of your lives as well. They just start to fall into place as you go, you know what? I don't want to be this person anymore in this area.
Yes.
Take addiction. I don't want to be the guy that goes to bed every night drinking beer. Okay, so I decided to take that out of my life because that was the behavior that I saw for years and years. I don't want to teach that.
Yep.
Well, now I'm getting up early in the morning and I'm being a more disciplined person in the health of my life. Well, now I'm reading my Bible every day because I'm a disciplined person. So one decision very often will stem into these other decisions throughout your life. And so down the road, and this is the other part we want to be very careful is as you start to make some of these decisions, is be patient. Like you don't get to just wake up tomorrow morning and today I'm a different person.
And somehow everybody around you is automatically going to respond to the change that you made subconsciously. It's like, this is going to take some time.
You said at the beginning, it's going to be hard.
There's going to be very hard days. But on the other side of it, as you said, as long as you continue pouring in and persevering, there is a crown at the end of this thing. And it's the crown of Christ. Now, what we have biblically when it comes to generational curses is we have a couple of things that if you were just a layman looking at them, they would seem contradictory.
They would.
One of them would seem like, if we go back to, is it Ecclesiastes?
So Exodus is where
it first starts. This one seems pretty condemning. Like, hey, God's going to punish the children and the children's children in the third generation. You got that one?
I'll just read it. Exodus 20, verse 5-6. So this is Moses is giving the 10 Commandments. And so it says, you shall not bow down. So this is the second commandment. You shall not bow down to them or serve them. For I, the Lord, he's talking about idols. You shall have no other idols before me. Okay. Then he says, you shall not bow down to them or serve them. For I, the Lord, your God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me, but showing mercy to thousands to those who love me and keep my commandments. There's a weird language that if you don't read the Bible and here, it'd be very hard understanding. Basically, what God is saying to them is that, hey, I don't want you to worship anything other but me. Okay? Just
right.
I'm number one. And so we have this word idolatry, which if you're not a Bible person, idolatry is a very weird word.
Absolutely.
All it means is that I'm putting something is superseding what God is. That's it. Just to be
in
super
your life,
simple.
in your day-to-day life, and who you trust and what you believe. So it's maybe your family, or it's your job, or it's your economic stability.
Yes. Here's the hard part about all this. It's where does that line draw of what becomes an idol? Because I can look at my life and go, man, I work all these hours throughout the day. I wake up in the morning, I do this, I spend a little bit of time with my family at night. And so you're like, I don't spend the most time with God throughout the day. You're not going to.
Okay.
It's just as I work throughout the day, what am I doing this for? Because God actually calls me to work, and I want to be an example for him in the workplace.
Sure.
I want to teach my kids what it is to work and what it is to provide.
Yeah.
Those are God-given things. That job becomes an idol when it becomes an identity. It's if I don't have this job, who am I? Mm-hmm. And that is when something becomes an idol. If I don't have this house, I don't have this whatever, fill in the blanks, then who am I? So it really becomes down to an identity thing. So really what God is just simply saying to them is just, I want to be it.
Put me first.
That's it. Just put me first in all that you do.
Yep.
And if you don't, it shows that you actually hate me, which is a really strong word. But I think it's the best word because it just says that something is more important to you. My affections are somewhere else. Mm-hmm. And that's a slippery slope because it doesn't happen overnight. It's just we start making these small decisions throughout our life to place these little mini idols above God. And then one day we wake up and it's like God's not even in the rearview mirror anymore.
Right.
And so this is why. He's just saying, hey, listen, make me first.
So how do we go about seeing those last two pieces where he says, I will...
Yeah.
The iniquities, what is iniquities first off,
yep.
of the father and the generation and the generation and the generation. And then he does say right after that, by the way, if you're praising God and you're following God and putting him first, he will bless the 1,000 generation after you. How do we go about figuring out what are the two differentials there?
Great question. So iniquities would be the sins, so the sins of the father.
And what are sins?
Sins would be anything that goes against my love for God.
There you go.
Right. So the Bible would list these things. And we all know the basic ones. I mean, this is why the 10 Commandments was given. This is the law was given. Don't cheat on your wife and
don't murder.
Don't lie and, don't steal. And like we know some of these big things that we shouldn't be doing. Okay. We inherently know what they are. But so when he talks about to the third and fourth generation there, when you read those verses, it's very easy for you to read that and go, God must be punishing
me for something my grandpa did.
Yeah. Why
would a just God do that? I haven't even done anything yet.
Right. And then he goes on to say, but showing mercy to thousands to those who love me and keep my commandments. I think showing mercy to thousands is hyperbolic language, but he's just showing the point in what he's saying here is that, if you love me, I will bring blessing upon your life for generation after generation after generation.
Because they will, and what we're saying is because they will learn from you, your children will see dad doing well. Who's dad's foundation? It's God. So your children will mimic you as I mimicked my father into alcoholism.
Mm-hmm.
I pray that my children who've never seen me drink see a dad who's dedicated his life to God, is joyful, makes good decisions, and has abundant happiness and abundant joy in his life because of God. And then they will then follow that. That's the thing they'd mimic. They don't have to mimic grandpa who was an alcoholic, who was my dad.
Yeah.
Right?
That's and mine. Right?
Exactly.
And so when you read that verse, it'd be very...
And that would bless 1,000 generations. Again, if my child then takes it up, that's the example to his kids.
Mm-hmm.
And then God willing, that continues through the next kids. So my great-grandchildren would have that same blessing upon them because great-grandpa got the opportunity, myself, to be a change agent. I did not do the same behaviors as my father. I identified them for what they were. I identified how bad they had made my life, how small and how miserable my life was, and said, this is terrible. And I had to get to the point where it was like, I would have done anything to get out of the cycle, including die. That's where I was. I was so done. So I took my father's example, as we tend to do, by the way. I multiplied his into this whole other realm of misery, darkness, and despair. And then, praise God, I did hit what became my bottom. You said the firm foundation bottom is Jesus. I hit that place. And God goes, I've been waiting for you, buddy.
Yeah.
Let's turn this thing around. But it was super hard, and it took a long time, and coming off of drugs and alcohol was super tough, and it was miserable. But every time I just pushed another day and did the things necessary, connecting with the brotherhood, talking to the pastor at the place, really letting people pour into me, but like pouring out my real thoughts and my real heart, and struggling and having people stand there arm in arm with me and getting through it, I persevered. And it made me stronger on the other side. It let me know that I could persevere through many other hard things, by the way. And life is hard.
Suffering develops perseverance.
There you go.
So the next time you persevered through that and you saw what relying on God can do for your life, so the next time you come upon something hard, you remember how God was there. He was faithful as you went through that.
That's exactly right.
It's interesting in this verse. It says, showing mercy to thousands, to those who what? Who love me and keep my commandments. And so God is just calling us to a life of obedience is what he's calling us to. So to be clear, though, about this concept of curse. So the Bible this verse is not saying that God punishes me for the decisions that my dad made, for the decisions that my grandpa made. Early interpretations really focus on natural consequences, which it's imitation of parental sin is what a lot of it is. But there's also some of this too there's a genetic factor to this as well. So the NIH has actually done some, National Institute of Health did some studies on this, and they found like up to 60% of all addiction especially, there's a genetic component to it where it's found in the dopamine receptors, right?
Sure.
So just as an interesting fact that comes through that. So we have to be very, very aware if you have addiction traits in your family. This applies even more. Like not only do I have to lead my family well because God has called me to do it because of the natural consequences of my poor leadership. But if there's also a genetic component to that too, where they're more genetically prone to have an addictive behavior, then I really have to be on my guard to protect my kids against that as well.
Sure.
I can't just fall back and be lax in my responsibilities and go, just who we are. It's just the way that God made us.
How do you go about doing that then as a dad?
Oh man, this is the most important question that you can actually ask in there because it's never too late. I think for a lot of guys, maybe guys that are listening to this, probably are our age. Man, there's younger and older, but a lot of guys that listen to this are our age, and they have kids that are already older. And I screwed up my kids for a long time. Like my older two kids, they were grown when I got my crap together.
Sure.
So, my older two kids got to watch this mom and a dad be chaotic. My younger two kids, they were still in the house when we got our crap together, so they grew up more in a peaceful house. Now, the beauty of it is they both have got to see the redemption of Jesus, and so it's never too late.
Okay.
But it is. I have to be a generational change agent. We keep saying that, but it's like it is a true statement. It's like I have to be willing to sacrifice these desires that I have, these sinful desires that I have, so that I can be the better example for my kids.
How do you go about correcting them when they're on the wrong path?
How do you go about correcting your kids?
How do you? How do you personally go about trying to help your children when they've walked on the wrong path?
This is the hardest thing to do with your kids is tough love.
Okay.
And we'll get into more of this in our interviews, but, I didn't have a plan B. I didn't have a backup net. It was just when I was in drugs and alcohol, it was just, they let me go.
Your parents?
My parents just let me go.
Okay.
Because it was, you're just going to have to go get your butt kicked enough times and get arrested a bunch of times.
Did they bail you out early on?
Never.
Okay.
Never.
All right.
And that's been the hardest thing for myself is like,
how hard it was coming out with no net? Mm-hmm. Have you put a net down sometimes for your kids?
I put a net down too many times for my kids. And that's a mistake because all it does is it prolongs their poor decision making because they know mom and dad are going to clean up my messes all the time.
Do you pull the net away because you don't love them?
You pull the net away because you do love them.
And why is that?
If I want them to really get to know who Jesus is, then the suffering, developing perseverance through suffering applies to them just like it applies to me.
And that is hard.
It's the hardest thing in the world to watch your kids.
And especially if you've been there for a while as the net. And then when you finally do hit that point because they've pushed you enough time, because they're participating in the abuse part there. It's not like it's only you.
Here's what's hard about it.
Talk to me.
I blame myself.
Because of the example you set.
The decisions they're making, they are mimicking exactly what I did.
Right.
So how could I be mad at them or get after them for doing the exact same thing that they watched me do their whole growing up?
Yeah.
And so there's this guilt you feel of, man, they're doing that because I did this. Mm-hmm. And so my natural reaction is I want to step in and just like create safety because I feel like a piece of crap for being such a bad dad for all those years. Mm. But the more I did it, the more I've come to realize that I just prolonged them going through that. Now, beautiful that God is just like, there's just been this restoration of my relationships with my kids, and I see all my kids walking with Jesus now and making steps to walk towards Jesus. So God has still been faithful. Why? Because he shows mercies to thousands to those who love me and keep my commandments. That's not a promise. So you can read that, and some of you may be listening and going, but I'm walking and loving Jesus, and my kids are chaos. It's not a promise. This is what we call a truism in the Bible, where if you do this, chances are that this is the way that the results are going to come out of that. But there's this patiently waiting in that too, right? Remember, I was in addiction for years and years and years and years of my life. And I know my mom and my dad prayed for me for years and years and years and years of my life. And so it took a decade for them to see the fruit of those prayers and to see God's faithfulness through this. So this comes back to God's timing and our timing are two very different things. So if your kids are walking away from the Lord right now, it's not this isn't a final thing. Like they can repent and they can come back.
That's a great point.
Right? But it is me, and when my kids are acting like that, I still have to love on them. The most important thing I can do is pray for them. And that becomes our role now more than anything else as parents of older kids. Pray. I have to lay a foundation of prayer over my kids all the time.
You know what's so interesting too? Gosh darn it, I'm so glad you brought that up. Because I was going to say that about the fella who wrote to us, which is, if we were dialoguing further, if I was face to face with him, eventually I would have got to this question. What are you praying for when you talk to God about this woman? Like, what does that prayer look like? Can you lead me into it a little bit? And what I think it would be is, I know that for myself, it's going to be we use this word frequently, but it's monofocal. It's going to be this one thing. I'm only praying for the thing I want. What I'm not doing is praying around it and asking some of these other prodding questions to God.
So good.
That actually might get closer to where he can then answer me. Because sometimes when God is silent, it means I'm not asking the right questions. It means that I'm not praying in the right direction. What does that mean? It means that I'm probably being selfish. If I'm just going to tear it all the way down to brass tacks.
If we're honest, I think the vast majority of our prayers are
very selfish.
Yeah, God, give me.
Yes.
Right. We take that, give me my daily bread, and we turn that, give me into my daily bread and in my daily.
Give me a great career. Give me a great wife. Give me give me no problems. right?
That's so funny, man, that you say that. Somebody wrote in this week on one of our comments that, we were talking about the Bible, and they'd say it was written by man, so we know man manipulated it.
I saw that.
You saw that? And it's like, man manipulated the Bible. If man manipulated the Bible, then man would be like, if you give your life to Jesus, all your wildest dreams come true, all your pleasures will be satisfied, everything will only go good for you if you follow Jesus. But the message is exactly the opposite. You'll have suffering. Life is going to be hard, but stay faithful to me.
Pick up your cross and follow me.
Yeah. So if I'm manipulating the Bible, that's not the message I'm manipulating, by the way. So and this goes with what we were just talking about right here when it comes down to this message of prayer. I'm so glad that you said that, because that's so important, because it's a reminder to me that my prayer life needs to start with, number one, it needs to start with gratitude. I mean,
right? Let's just pause on that for a second. That is the ultimate mind frame change that you can have, is when you start recognizing all the things God has already done for you. Mm-hmm. And you know what? Maybe life sucks today, and maybe it's been real hard. Maybe you are the guy or gal who's been drinking and drugging, and you have created a big fat mess that you're sitting in the stink of, and life sucks. Do you have breath in your lungs? I know it sounds pretty silly, but I went to a prison rehab place, and that's where they start at that place, is these guys that are just coming out of prison. I happen to be the only guy not coming out of prison. But these guys, that's one of the first gratitude things they teach you. Do you have air in your lungs? That's what these hardened men would say. They go, yeah. And they go, well, why don't you get grateful for that? Because you don't have to. You could be below ground right now. How many of your homies are dead? These guys all had homies that were dead.
All.
So it's like, you start there. And God willing, your life has more than that. And I bet if you just try to think a little bit, did I eat breakfast today? Did I eat dinner as I'm listening to this? Did I have food today? Thank you for that food today. Thank you for the breath in my lungs. What else do I have? I still have my kids. God, they're frustrating. They are following down some of the bad places I have, but I love them. So thank you for them. Thank you for my wife who just argued with me somehow. But all of these things matter. Thank you for a woman who still lives in this house with me, even in my funk, or vice versa if you're a woman. Thank you for this person that has stuck by me this time. And then we can move on to some of the other stuff. God, I want to be better for these things that I'm grateful for. I want to pay back in a way, though you can never pay back all God does for you. But there is a draw in your heart when you start recognizing all God's done for you, that you want to start getting some credit in your end of the ledger.
Sure.
And you want to start doing some of the things right. So then it's like, but God, I'm struggling deeply with this. And it's causing conflict, and it's taking things from me. And I need you to help me, because I'm just not enough. Mm-hmm. And the things I'm doing are not enough. And God, if you are at this place, I know that in my walk, 1,000 times I said, today's the day I quit.
Yeah.
And I'd try to do it, and I'd try to white knuckle it. And by noon, I'd already quit on the promise. And I'll do it next week, or I'll do it tomorrow.
Yeah. I think the hardest prayer I have for my kids that I pray constantly, when your kids are walking away, it's God, gently break them. Gently break them. Because there's this prayer in your heart. It's like, I want them to break, but I don't want them to be crushed. And that's a hard prayer, but it's really what it is. For me, it was an act of surrender, because in your life, I want to control everything, right? So I'm just going to hold on to everything tightly. And in my world, I felt like I had the better answers for my kids than what God had for my kids, when the reality is God loves my kids way more than I love my kids. And so sometimes that prayer as a father has
Say that again. God
loves my kids way more than I love my kids. Right? His desires for them to walk with them and to spend eternity with them. And so he laid down his life for them. He was brutally killed for them. That shows the love. Now, would I lay down my life for my kids? Absolutely. But he did.
He literally did.
He was crushed because he loved my kids so much.
Okay.
So because he did that, I know that I can trust him. But there's this prayer as a dad is like, with my kids, is Father, just gently break them. And I've seen moments in their lives where that prayer came true, where they made poor decisions and it wrecked them. And instead of us being there running in to clean up the messes, we just let them sit in it and watch God start to heal and renew and change their hearts. And I'm so grateful to God for that. He has been faithful. This verse resonates so true to me, that he shows mercy to thousands, to those who love me and keep my commands. So part of why I have to work to keep God's commands, not so he loves me more, not so I have better standing, so my eternal security is there, but there's an aspect of when I put my faith and trust in Jesus that I do have to do. Like, I don't get to just say some magical fairy prayer and then go on living my life the way that I used to live my life. I have to recognize the sinful natures that I have that I will wrestle with till the day I die.
Okay.
But I'm going to be putting those things to death every single day and fighting against them, because I love God and I want to keep his commands. And I want blessing for generations for my family. And I want to teach my kids how to have blessing for their families for generations as well. So if I want them to have blessings for generations, what do they have to do? They have to love God and keep his commands.
And I think as they are being as gently as possible broken, and they see dad continuing, there's a couple of components here. You're saying prayer. Prayer is action. You are acting upon something when you pray, and there will be an outcome from your prayer. No prayer is invalid. Every prayer matters, and actions come from prayer. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So that's a big piece, is you're saying I'm praying, but also you're saying I'm actively continuing to live my life on this godly path so that my children can still continue to reflect back. Whenever they come see dad, whenever they go to dad, heartbroken and hurting, you say, I love you, I'm praying for you, and this path that I'm on is the right path.
What you do matters.
And what you do matters.
Period.
That is so useful, because even if you are a God-loving person, you can still have children that go astray. That's just the fact of the matter. Why? I don't know. We don't know. Untrained.
I love that.
Every once in a while, you got to throw it in. For real, though, like, I don't know why those things happen. We don't know why those things happen. But prayer matters. Continuing to be honorable and live your life for God matters. And the prayer then, again, as we start trying to craft prayers for the people that we love, we really have to open the door for how massive God is, which says, maybe I need to reevaluate my prayer if it's not being effective. Maybe I need to reevaluate what I'm praying for, just like you did. You said, I wanted to be the net. Maybe the prayer is, God, guide me here. Lord, am I supposed to be the net, or am I supposed to let these kids fall on their butt this time and let them feel the weight of that outcome? And like, see, I'm still going to be right here telling them I love them. I'm still going to be praying for them, God, but guide my heart to the place where it should be so I can be most effective for them.
Yeah, it's give me wisdom on how to walk through that.
There we go.
You know, there's a second time, and I found this intriguing. There's a second time in Numbers chapter 14, verse 18, where it says these same verses again.
All right.
There was so what was happening here, just a little quick tidbit. So the Israelites were getting ready to go in the promised land, which was the promise of God when they came out of Egypt.
So now they're with Moses?
They're still with Moses.
Yeah.
So they're at the edge of the promised land. They take somebody from each of the 12 tribes and they go send them into the promised land for 40 days just to scout and see what's going on.
Okay.
When they come back from it, they see the Amalekites, they see these giant people, and they become fearful. And instead of trusting the promise that God had for them, they became fearful and said, hey, let's just go back to Egypt. Because
it's not going to work out.
Yeah, because they're going to kill our wives, they're going to kill our kids, and we haven't seen God do all these amazing things up until now, so clearly he can't be faithful with this.
Okay.
God can't be trusted. And so once again, we see the Lord showing up in anger and saying, you know, he says to them, I'm going to not leave the guilty unpunished, punish the children for the sins of the parents to the third and fourth generation. There's this reminder that if you're going to continue to live in this sinful pattern, this is going to continue to happen for generation after generation after generation. Instead, if you would just remain faithful and listen to me, then I'm faithful. You can trust me. It reminded me when I was reading this, I was thinking about my own walk with Jesus, and I'll share more when we do our interviews. But there's this 3 time periods where I've walked with Jesus, and it's the second one I've really focused in on.
Okay.
Because I had a 3-year period. I had, come to know Jesus, went through drug and alcohol period, and then I had 3 years where I wasn't doing anything. I was walking with the Lord, had Bible studies going on. I was serving in the youth ministry. Like I was doing all the things that you should be doing.
That you should be doing.
To be a Christian, right?
Okay.
I played the Christian game well. But in the background of my life, all it was, as I've really been able to see it for what it is, all that it was me
checking some boxes.
Checking boxes, right? And then
all the glory comes back to you anyways then.
I think that's what most of it was for, is like, look at everything I'm doing.
Look at how great I am. I'm doing all the things that make me a top tier Christian.
Yeah. I think some of that comes out of the legalistic background that I had, like this twisted up version of what Christianity is.
Okay. So some of it was inherited through the elders around you.
Yep.
Well, it seems like kind of like what we're talking about here.
This is exactly what we're talking about.
Interesting.
So
bad behavior modeling, in a sense of these people who were in Christian authority that taught you.
I wouldn't even call it bad behavior. I would say it was good behavior, wrong intention.
Okay.
So we have to teach the intention of Christianity so that when I serve and I go and do, right, why am I doing that? I'm doing that because I love Jesus, not because I don't want God to be mad at me. That was really the posture of my heart, was I just don't want God to be mad at me, because I had this weird relationship with God at that point in time.
It was works, not faith.
It was absolute works, not faith. Well stated. And so when I see what the Israelites did there, that God had been faithful and brought them out of all these bad situations, and it was bringing them to the promised land. And then they go see it for what it is, and they tasted how good it was. And it wasn't enough, and they said, we can't trust God that he's going to bring us through one more time. And that was my life. Like, I had seen and tasted what God had done, how he had brought me out of a life of addiction, and I came to the edge of it. Instead of staying faithful, I ran back into addiction again, because I was like, I don't think God is faithful for this one. And I just, when you see that, read that story, it's very easy to go, why would they do that? Oh, wait.
I'd like to philosophize this a little bit, because we're talking 40 years in the desert. They're an agrarian culture, which means they're probably producing children every 18 years. So that means they're already on their 3rd generation since they've left Egypt. Okay?
Yep.
And when God is making this declaration, he's potentially pointing at the eldest amongst them and saying, look at how you've taught these people to be unfaithful. You've seen the stuff I did when we were in Egypt, because children have been born since Egypt and grown up into teenager and even early stage adulthood, early 20s by this point in time.
Remember, they're in the desert during this period. So there was no growing anything.
There was no growing anything.
They're
so
watching God provide.
That's what I'm saying, is God has constantly provided for them for these 40 years, and still mom and dad and now grandpa and grandma have shown such a poor example to these kids. And we're talking about, what's the name of the young man that goes over? Is it Joshua?
Caleb and Joshua.
Caleb and Joshua. They go over. So those are children of these adults here who go over there, scout it out, and they come back and go, they're so unfaithful because mom and dad never taught them the deepness of faith that they can have in God, that they're saying, it's too much for us. It's not worth it. Let's just go back to prison.
Actually, Caleb and Joshua were the only two that said...
They were for it.
They were for it.
I apologize. But
but your point is exactly right. All the other ones, they weren't in Egypt.
So God is saying, see how already in the 40 years where I've provided literally everything you need for sustenance, including your clothes haven't even fallen apart. And the children, your descendants now have little faith just like you. And he's saying, see how it passed down generation to generation. That's me philosophizing on maybe a bigger picture of kind of what could potentially be being said there. Because we mimic that.
Well, here's how we know actually what you said is accurate. Because God comes in, he was going to kill them. He was going to wipe them out with a plague. And Moses, he comes and has a conversation with God. And it seems like he changes God's mind, but he didn't. It's anthropomorphic language, which is just God showing his humanity, even though he's deity, right? He's just coming down and having a conversation with Moses about this. But here's God says he's going to kill them with a plague. And then he makes a decision after that, says, no, I'm not going to wipe them out like that. But none of these people
are ever coming into the promised land.
only the people that are under the age 20 years old
There it is.
will be able to enter in the promised land.
So only the most recent generation can come in. All of you older generations, I've done everything for you. You've proved yourself unworthy. You're going to stay out here. They're going to go in.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, that is that curse.
That is that curse, right? It was just taught behavior. It wasn't God punishing. It was just taught behavior because you were unfaithful in trusting me. You have taught your kids how to be unfaithful in trusting me when I've done nothing but be faithful to you throughout this entire time.
Would you say that God explicitly rejects generational blaming then?
I do. And we find that in two different passages of Scripture. We can find that in Ezekiel chapter 18, verses 1 through 4.
Okay.
It says, "The word of the Lord came to me. What do you people mean by quoting this proverb about the land of Israel? The parents eat sour grapes, and the children's teeth are set on edge." And I'll explain that. "But as surely as I live, declares the sovereign Lord, you will no longer quote this proverb in Israel. For everyone belongs to me, the parent as well as the child, both alike belong to me. The one who sins is the one who will die." And if you continue to read through that chapter, he continues to be more explicit, is that the righteous will be blessed because they are righteous, and the wicked will be killed because they are wicked. Deuteronomy 24:16, "Parents are not to be put to death for their children, nor children put to death for their parents. Each will die for their own sin."
Yeah.
So we see some clarifications in two other passages of Scripture. So when you're reading the Bible and you read one verse, right, we never want to make a theological identity or idea around one verse. We want to read Bible in totality, because when we read it in totality, we get clarification of what he's actually talking about here. So I don't pay for what my father did and what my grandfather did.
Yeah.
I just live my life based on the example that they taught me. And because of what I live my life based on what they taught me, that's the curse,
Yes.
right? It's me not knowing Jesus, me not being faithful. That's the curse that has been put on me.
Yep.
The beauty of all this, though, is that we have the ability to change it. And we have a responsibility to change it for our families. And not just for our families, but so that we can be an example for others. And when I'm an example for others, people within my community, people within my sphere, they've seen me become a reliable person. And so because they see me become a reliable person, they can come to me and ask questions. And now we get to mentor people because of these changes. And so the fruit that comes with one person making a positive decision to change their life for Christ can last through generations upon generations. And that's the faithfulness of what the Bible is teaching.
So then on the other side of it, we're talking about us mimicking the patterns is the sin. Us mimicking the patterns of our parents when they're living inappropriately is us mimicking the patterns of the sin, which is, i.e., the curse.
Yes.
We're just allowing ourselves to continue mimicking, maybe hoping for some different results, but ultimately at the end of the day, finding the same results. And it really is going to take a change. That's that change agent piece where you put down the things of the past. You say, I've tried on my own accord to change things. It's just not changing. And you let God in. And you ask God to step into that
All right,
place.
so question.
Yeah.
Somebody's listening to this right now. They're hearing, I hear you. I want to be a change agent. Where do I start?
Well, we have to first identify where you're off track. So there are any number of different things that your parents could have done poorly that have somehow affected you. I grew up and we were very poor. So I have this poverty mentality that I battle against all the time. If my wife was here now, she would tell you how far I've come, but how far I still have to go. Okay?
Yeah.
And it's scarcity based. I always felt like throughout my whole life that I knew we didn't have enough. And then throughout my life, whenever I'd have anything, I'd hoard it. And I was never generous. I couldn't imagine being able to afford to be generous. And I always put in my head like these ideas, like if I ever became rich, then I'll be generous, right? So with that mentality, you can be fearful of everything. And that's a curse. It's something that I carried. I watched my parents be that way. And unfortunately, and I love my mom, but like she still has a bit of that. She's like, if I won the lottery, I would give a lot of money to the Girl Scouts of Florida. And I go, give them $5 now. I mean, why wait? You got $5. You don't have to give them $50,000 and change their lives. Give them $5 and start there. And then maybe you win the lottery someday and you give them $50,000. But like today, you can start with just whatever you want. If your heart's there, do it now. And that's a way to start breaking that. So there's poverty breakage is you can start being generous.
So you're saying
in the capacity that you have available.
Recognize the poor teaching of your parents. Look at your own life first. What are there you want to change?
Completely assess your life.
Yeah, there has to be an assessment done, right?
If things are being taken from you, if you feel like your wheels are spinning, you feel like you're not getting anywhere, you feel like life is just this same ugly pattern, and you haven't gotten the achievements that you want in your life, that's what you're assessing for.
Okay.
And you're saying, what decisions have I made along the path that have led to this? You said it. Do I come home every night and crack a beer every night? Or do I do it 4 times a week? And could I be putting that energy into something else? If I didn't by 8 p.m. have a little bit of a buzz on, could I have done something else at 8:15?
Okay.
But I can't now because I'm limited because I've had 4 beers.
Yeah. You might be the person that comes home from work and immediately goes and jumps on the computer, starts playing video games rather than pouring into your kids.
That's great.
Just as damaging, because I'm not spending time with kids, right? So there's these little things that we have to assess. So I very often, I think when people are thinking like this assessment, it's like, well, I don't drink and I don't do drugs and I'm home all the time.
Well, there's also anger. How angry am I? Have I exploded at my wife and it's caused conflict? Have I exploded at my kids and they're nervous around me?
Which time?
And they can't bring their hearts to me now because my heart is far from them.
They don't trust me.
They don't trust me. That can manifest in a lot of ways. I think that if you search your heart, if you really are at a place, you're listening to this and you're at a place and some of this is resonating with you, it is time for that accountability, for that assessment of what's going on. You should, if one of these things triggers you, ask yourself, why am I triggered by that? Mm-hmm. That's what I did when I was dealing with, all of these are me, so. I was dealing with anger. And in my anger, we had a pastor speak about it, Pastor Rick.
Real quick, by the way, this is why we're doing this podcast, is because we want you to know, like, when we're talking about these things,
it's always us.
This was our life for so many years, so we are just going to bear our life out to you.
And as I fight against these things, my life gets better. And I want that for other people.
I want that for our listeners.
Like, I'm the same guy in my heart who, once Jesus removed my compulsion to drink all the time, I wanted to shake every guy in the center I was at and go, dude, just give your life over right now. Mm-hmm. You don't have to feel the way you feel. I see the way you're feeling. It sucks, bro. You're dying. It's killing you. Wake up. Unfortunately, all the shaking in the world
doesn't work.
You know what? But I still have that heart for those people that are struggling with stuff I've struggled with. Anger and depression.
You were talking about Pastor Rick. I didn't mean to cut you off earlier.
Please.
You were talking about your anger.
Yeah, sure.
And then you heard this.
Rick did a prayer where he did a sermon where he said that his wife and him were at a convention and a guy talked about anger and she kind of nudged him. And when he's telling this story, my wife nudges me. Hey, you feeling anything in there? And then we had a conversation on the way home. And I was totally caught blindside by it. I thought she was full of crap.
And then you came to me with it.
And I came to you with it. And by the way, by the time I even verbalized it to you, and I verbalized it to a couple other good friends, I was pretty sure I knew what I was already dealing with. Mm-hmm. The thing is, the truth in my heart was already the minute my wife elbowed me and I had the reaction, I had like, whoa, me? I'm not mad. I'm not even mad at all. Like, what?
I'm not crying, you're crying.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Look how mad you are. Nah, man, it was like, in my mind, my reaction, thankfully, at the same moment, because I already was in relationship with Christ, I'm going to say it just like this. This is kind of one of those supernatural things that happens, but like images came into my mind. And I just knew they were true. It was me breaking stuff in my trailer on a job site, being frustrated with the client, being frustrated with the situation, just being frustrated. And my way of dealing with my frustration was to act out aggressively and break things.
Now, at the very beginning of all of this, you said some of it's you and some of it's not.
That's right.
So this is, in that moment of you breaking stuff in the trailer, that's you.
That's me.
But what had you been shown?
again, in my
Not to blame.
it's not. It's identifying these things. I don't go back to my biological father. He's not even with us anymore. He passed away years ago. So I can't go back to him and go, hey, that crappy example you gave for me, now I'm like that. By the way, that's not even useful. Really, the path of this is going to it shocked me. How's that? Is I started identifying the anger that he always had too, and when it manifested and why it manifested. And then I started feeling actually kind of sorry for him. I had never felt that way. And in that place, in my heart, because he's beyond us, I just forgave him, man. And that is freaking hard. Because it's like, yo, you weren't even there. The only thing I ever got from him was like alcohol addiction and anger and who gives a crap about your kids' mentality. And it's all about me. That's what I carried on from him. And as things were collapsing around me, I was even more mad about that stuff somewhere in my mind. And when I forgave him, it's like forgiveness is baffling because it's not a one time and you walk away from it thing. It's when things come up, you have to like put yourself back in that spot again and go, I forgive this too.
Yeah.
It's like a continuation. To forgive is like this thing that just is going to go on, man.
As we kind of wind this down, so let's give them some real practical tips here.
Let me give the rest of these things.
Okay.
Real quick. Divorce. That's another one. You watch your parents get divorced and you can potentially think that a marriage is something that can be thrown away. And that's not what God called you to. He called you to a sacrificial life where you sacrifice the things that you want for the person that you love. By the way, the beautiful thing is, especially to you men, when you do that, her innate response will be to do it for you.
That's right.
And then you'll have the deepest connection you've ever had in your life. That's why it's the closest thing to the relationship the Father has with the Son. That's why he gave this beautiful thing called marriage to us.
Yeah, amen.
Is because it's the closest thing you'll have this side of heaven.
Yeah.
The second thing is the selfishness.
Unpack that.
Selfishness is a me-centered life.
Okay.
Where what I want and what I need, and I want them now. It's what we've talked about before, where if you like to party, anything that comes in the path of your partying and having fun is a problem. And that's going to go. Whether it's somebody that loves you, that's concerned about you because maybe you're out of control, you're always just so focused on yourself that when someone does come to you with something, you just reject them as they're a hater, they're an obstacle that needs to just go away rather than maybe responding to it and saying, you know, you might have something there. Let me, again, assess. Sexual sin.
It's a big one.
The house I grew up in, my dad had Playboys. They were just in the house. Now, they weren't sitting on the coffee table for mom to pick up sometimes and read the articles in. They were in the bathroom, and then later on in life, once we were teenagers, they were out in the garage. But he always had them. It's not good. It's not the worst thing in the world, by the way, but it's not good either. Again, we've talked about this, and I'm not going to beat it up, but they didn't have cell phones with pornography on it, where you can access it wherever you're at all the time. And it's not just images. These are actually people, and there's circumstances happening there that are not fully revealed. And I think it's dangerous. But that was my little window into that world, was these little magazines. I could sneak away and look at them, and it was naked ladies, and it was exciting, and it was cool. But honestly, it's not what God designed, and it's not going to bring the highest and best for you.
That's right.
That's just the truth.
It is, man.
And I'm certainly not shaming anybody that has looked at that stuff, but I'm talking about assessing. And this is certainly a thing that needs to be assessed.
I would say it's 100% of men have looked at that.
Yes.
100%. So anybody listening to this, you've looked at it before.
So let's talk about some ways. That's probably not every way, by the way, that generational trauma, generational curses are handed down.
No, but I think it encompasses the majority of things, because I think every little faction that could come out of that would stem from an anger response, a deficiency in proper sexual identity, a sexual ethic.
Selfishness,
Me
which,
just
by the
being a
way, is
selfish
even
person.
part of sexuality stuff. It's a selfishness. It's,
Yeah.
I want this. I want to do
I would
this
say
thing that feels good.
I would say those three things, we can probably see the fruit of every other poor mistake I make come out of it. One of those three major things that we see happen.
So what do we do about? How do we go about battling against this?
Let's make this super simple for people. Number one, the assessment, I think, is where you start. I have to make an assessment, a personal inventory, and be honest of my life, of where I make poor decisions, and then look back at my life. What was I taught? Not to blame, but just it gives me a path going forward of how do I change things, right?
That's so right.
So I'm going to make that assessment. Number two, I have to ground myself biblically. What does God say about my life, and what does he call me, and what does he desire for me? And if I don't know, then the other part of that is I need to find some dudes that do.
Okay.
That I afford permission to speak into my life directly. That's hard for a lot of guys, is to give somebody permission to speak directly.
It's going to take time.
Because you have to find the right person.
And you have to build trust. You have to find the right people, but you also have to build trust. We didn't become great buddies overnight.
Right.
We had a shared experience that was cool, and then we decided to share more experiences. And each one of those experiences would reveal a little bit more of who we were.
Mm-hmm. Which means, in order for you to build that relationship, you're going to have to find a local church to get plugged into. Because the person you're looking for that you want to be able to speak into your life you're going to find in a place like that.
And it might not be the first church. Gosh, it might not be the fifth church. But don't stop looking. Mm-hmm. And you can also engage in other ways too. Outside of that it doesn't mean you just go to every church on the block. If you see someone around you that's killing it, ask them what they're doing. Take that little bit of risk and say, I like the way your life is headed. I like what you're doing. And then maybe spend a little time with them. And maybe that's not the right person. That's part of this, finding it out.
Yeah.
But you have to take the steps towards it. Because again, at the end of it, you're saying this too, this is going to be a you-driven thing. That's why you're assessing you and the things you've done. And then you're also assessing the things other people are doing or have done to try to hopefully assess the entire thing that is your world and how you can better it. And I always think that it's a great way. You hitch yourself to somebody that's doing a heck of a lot better than you, and you go, how'd you get there?
Yep. And then lace it in prayer.
Yes.
It's, God, open my eyes and reveal to me the things of where you want me to change, and then lead me in the path you want me to go. It doesn't have to be something fancy. God, show me where I suck. Show me where I need to be.
Yeah.
And it's just a humbling and a surrender to that. And when you do that, God is faithful.
Yep. That is it. Guys, if there's anything to put a statement on this, you don't have to make the same mistakes that were made in the past. You don't have to make the same mistakes that were made in your past, and you don't have to make the same ones that your family, your lineage fell victim to as well. You can be a change agent. Praise God, both Andy and I have had that opportunity. If there's something you're struggling with, we told you, get a crew together that are praying for you. We want to pray for you also. We have an email. You can email us at updpodcast@gmail.com. Maybe we're the first ones, and that's the easiest way for you to speak to somebody without actually going face-to-face and revealing something about yourself. It's obviously, we don't know who you are if you email us. You can email us and just say, here's what I'm struggling with. We will jump into the muck with you. We'll dialogue with you with what you got going on, and we will respond, and we'll be praying for you. So you're already getting a couple of these categories working in the right direction. And we will encourage you then to seek out some other people. If you know somebody that's struggling with this, please share this episode with them. We got a couple of episodes coming up here where Andy's going to talk about his life. Some of these darker things that we've insinuated and foreshadowed here. Andy's going to get deep in the mud of the guy he used to be and when God stepped in and made the changes. And I'm going to do the same thing. So the next couple episodes are going to be us talking about some of the darker times in our life and how God met us in that very awful place and, man, radically changed our life. So stick around for those.
If you are struggling with knowing how to read the Bible, I'm going to encourage you to go to our Patreon. You'll find a series of videos that Jonny has done on there. He spent a lot of time done a lot of research. He's put a lot of effort into simplifying what it is to read the Bible. And I want to encourage you to go to our Patreon. Those videos are free, so you can go on there and just check those out. It's called Bible Briefs.
Bible Briefs.
And they're just fantastic, man. You've done so well with those. While you're at Patreon, go ahead and sign up for $5 a month. Support us.
$5 a month.
That's it. This costs money to do all this, and we want to keep bringing awesome content. And we have an amazing producer, Felix, who's here with us, making everything else awesome. But all that stuff costs money, so $5 a month. You can support us.
The videos are 5 to 7 minutes. They're super fast. They're just a little deep dive, and it shows kind of, I hope, a way for you to not see the Bible as this huge thing that's confusing, but rather when taken in small doses, it actually can be very informative and it can shape your life. So like, share, subscribe. We are untrained philosophical discussionists. We so greatly appreciate you checking us out today, and we just want to pray that you have a deep and a fulfilling relationship with Jesus, and that he blesses you all the days of your life.
And all God's people said.
Well, they said amen.
Sure did, man. Have a great week, guys.
Appreciate y'all.